Hey guys, OG Albino here, and the Indigo Disc DLC is here, and that means a whole new Draft League meta, and I am so unbelievably excited to get into these new Pokemon, whether it be returning Pokemon or all of the new Pokemon in the DLC, and kind of rank and see how they're going to look in a Draft League metagame. So that's what today's video is going to be. We're going to look at these Pokemon, we'll be ranking them S through D on how good I think they will be on value-wise in the Draft League format. If you guys do enjoy today's tier list ranking video, be sure to drop a like on the video as well as subscribe to the channel. We're going to wait to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and if everybody watches this today hits that sub button, we will get it, and I would really appreciate it a ton. And yeah, with that being said, I don't want to hold you guys up too long. I want to start talking about these Pokemon. I've been playing the DLC all day. I've been looking at the leaks or the the data all day and the stats and the move pools. And man, oh man, was I blown out of the water with some of these Pokemon, especially new ones. Now, I know typically you'd start from Gen 1 and go down in these types of videos, but I want to start talking about the new Pokemon first, because that's what's most exciting, to be completely honest. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to go ahead and start off with our Gen 9 friend, Hydrapple here. When I say I was so pleasantly surprised at how this thing ended up turning out, they gave my boy the greatest ability in Pokemon Draft League, and Regenerator. It also has an incredible stat spread. If you ever see me looking off to the side too, I'm looking at the stats and the move pool and stuff like that on my other monitor. But you have 106 HP, 80 attack, 110 defense, 120 special attack, 88 speed def, and 44 speed with a 540 BST. That's incredible. Very slow, right? But still incredibly solid. Very solid Phys stat. This is an incredible ground resist. Has the best ability in the game in regen, and this thing's coverage is insane. Like, not only do you have, the cool option of, your, Grass plus Dragon Stab, but then you got access to Earth Power. You also got access to Nasty Plot. You can recover. You can even Leech Seed and be a nuisance. You can Leaf Storm. This thing, and then its new move, Fickle Beam, dude. I know I'm a little all over the place with this one, but I'm so pleasantly surprised. I don't know what the percentage is, but Fickle Beam, basically the way that it works is that every once in a while, sometimes, it just says sometimes, all of the user's beams shoot out of its head in unison, doubling the move's power, taking it from base 80 power to 160 base power with no drawback and does not miss. If you're not a fairy type, you do not switch into that. That's insane. It's insane how strong that move is. It's going to absolutely push through some things. Has a great ability. I think with Terra, this thing will be even better. Shedding that very mediocre defensive typing of Grass and Dragon, I think, is very important. Getting able to get rid of that and, take on, maybe a pure water typing, maybe a fire typing, maybe a steel typing, maybe a fairy typing is really solid. I am personally going to put Hydrapple here. Oop, it's like super lagging. We're going to put him in A tier for now, but I do think he's going to be very solid. Next up, we have Archaludon, and this is another one I was super surprised with. They gave it a pretty considerable stat increase, but the main thing is that they kept the same base speed as Duraludon. I thought it was going to get slower, which was going to make it worse, but I was wrong. It's got 90 HP, 105 attack, which is very solid for him on the Get Sword stance, 130 defense, 125 special attack, 65 speed F, which is really bad, and then 85 speed, which is pretty darn fast for a Pokemon like this. It has great abilities in Stamina, Sturdy, and Stalwart, which is doubles, but for singles, Stamina and Sturdy are both great. Especially considering like Iron Defense, Body Press type beam. It also got access to Aura Sphere, which I think is really awesome because Duraludon in the past, and obviously what we figured with Archaludon, it was that it was going to struggle to hit Steel types on the specially offensive side, and it's going to have to hit him with Body Press. Now you have a very viable option of going like Specs or like a special attack boosting item to really hit those Steel types hard with Aura Sphere, and that in conjunction with Flash Cannon and Draco Meteor. You also can go with the Power Herb, Meteor Beam / Electro sets as well, which is really solid. It's a solid rocker. It can T-Wave. This is another Pokemon I think is A tier. I think this is better than Hisui and Goodra. I think it takes the cake for the best like allowable, Steel and Dragon type personally. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and put an A tier. Now, oh, man, this next one, and I don't know, let me see, Gouging Fire. This is a Pokemon I legitimately think is going to be one of the better Pokemon in the Draft League format. I'm going to put an S tier. Now, why is this thing an S tier? Oh, and are you crazy? I might be. I really might be. However, when I looked at this thing, I looked at its bulk, attack, typing, and move pool, I don't see how this isn't a dominant Pokemon in the Draft League metagame. So looking at, we have 105 HP, 115 attack, 121 defense, 65 special attack. I'm fine with that being the worst stat. 93 speed F and 91 speed. 91 speed is mediocre. Not fast, but not slow. But it's very strong. It has a very solid typing offensively and defensively. Fire and Dragon is incredible with very, very good bulk. Now, move pool wise, what are we rocking with? Well, not only do we have a great dual stab combination in our Fire plus Dragon, but on top of that, we have access to Dragon Dance. This Pokemon getting Dragon Dance is absolutely insane. This thing is going to be incredibly strong. Coverage wise, you get options like Crunch. You can go with Earthquake. Oh, it got Earthquake too. Oh my god, it has Earthquake. I was looking at Stomping Tantrum, but it gets Earthquake. It can also like Psychic Fangs and random Thunder Flang. Obviously, Terra Blast on Terra sets is going to be very, very strong. But on top of that, you get your signature move in Burning Bulwark, which is basically like a burning Baneful Bunker, like Toxapex move, but it burns on Pokemon that make contact, which is incredible. But you also get Morning Sun. This thing can be incredibly fat with that typing, heavy-duty boots, and reliable recovery. Oh my goodness. Also, you get Roar to phase things out, which can be very, very solid. This Pokemon is incredible. Like, I genuinely think that this Pokemon, it really reminds me of Mega Charizard X in Draft League in the sense that, like, a lot of people kind of look at it face value, like, set up DD, WinCon type mons. But while they can do that well, Megazord X and its bulk was incredible, but this Pokemon's better in that regard. It's bulkier. It has reliable recovery, like we mentioned, but it also can hold boots and doesn't have to worry about rocks, which is really nice for a fatter fire type to be able to do. It can also boost its speed and Flame Charge and Scale Shot. It didn't get Swords Dance, which would have really set this Pokemon over the top. But man, I'm really impressed with this Pokemon, and I am incredibly excited to use it personally. Like, I don't think you guys realize how juiced I am to use this thing. Next up, we have Raging Bolt, a Pokemon, again, I was very surprised by. I'm also going to put it in A tier. Now, these Pokemon aren't ranked by any particular rank within their tiers, but this Pokemon, I was very surprised by, mostly, again, with its speed. I thought it was a little bit faster than I thought it was going to be. I think it's 75 speed, which is great. It has 125 HP, which is incredibly bulky, 73 attack, 91 defense, 137 special attack, 89 speed def, and 75 speed. And again, very bulky on this thing. Electro Dragon is an incredible typing, as you've seen with Pokemon like Mega Ampharos in the past, and obviously Miraidon, I think, is the electric one in this gen. I'm not 100% sure, but whatever the future guy is, very solid. Obviously, you have solid dual stabs in Draco plus Thunderbolt / Discharge. You can Volt Switch around for momentum. You can Calm Mind, and then you have Thunderclap, which is your signature move that is an electric type Sucker Punch, which is incredibly powerful. If you draft this thing on a Sun team, you can rock out with moves like Solar Beam and Weather Ball, which I also think is very valuable. I think the one thing that would make this Pokemon absolutely incredible would be recovery. If this thing got Morning Sun like Entei, it would be really gross. It would be incredible with how bulky it is. Unfortunately, it didn't get access to that. But again, another very solid Terra target. It also gets Taunt, which is really cool. It gets Roar. Can do a ton of different things. But really is going to serve as either like a really bulky pivot, just a monster of a tank / Choice Specs Breaker, even a Calm Mind Sweeper with its priority Sucker Punch or priority Thunderclap, I guess is a better way of putting it. And it looks really cool too. So I'm definitely really impressed with this thing. I think it's really solid. And Booster Energy is definitely a very viable option on this thing as well. The special attack is going to be really big. Like, getting that immediate special attack boost is really going to be anti-BS. That strong priority is really important in Gen 9 draft, in my opinion, with all the Mickey setup and offense running around. I think this thing is going to be really solid. Now, onto the most disappointing Pokemon of the DLC, in my opinion. Now, that being said, I think, like, it still has solid potential, right? I'm just not personally big on it when it comes to it competitively or design-wise, and then competitively-wise, I'm more excited about the other Pokemon. I'm gonna go ahead and put Iron Boulder, the Boulder, in B tier. Now, the biggest thing for Boulder for me is its typing. I think Rock plus Psychic is incredibly mediocre. Now, it does have great tools to its own credit, though, and it's going to be 90 HP, 120 attack, 80 defense, 68 special attack, 108 speed F, and 124 speed. The best thing for this thing is going to be its speed and its move pool. That speed at 124 is absolutely incredible. It is elite speed, and having elite speed in draft is a very important thing. My biggest thing, though, is, despite its offensive move pool, like I said, being incredible, with access to a 100% accurate, rock type move. What is it called? It's called, oh my gosh, Mighty Cleave, and it is a 95 base power, 100% accurate rock move, and it hits through Protect, which is pretty cool, especially in VGC. 100% accurate 95 power rock move is incredible for this thing. That plus obviously some kind of psychic move like Zen Headbutt, if it gets that, I'm assuming it does. Slash Psycho Cut, which is a cool option. I don't think it gets Psychic Fangs, unfortunately. It doesn't, that would be better. But on top of that, it's really just kind of here to be a setup sweeper. It can Swords Dance and Agility. It has great coverage options like Close Combat and Earthquake and Mega Horn and Poison Jab and things like that. Even gets Wild Charge and X Scissor. And, things of that sort, and even Sacred Sword to break through, defense boosting Pokemon, things like that. But I really wish that this thing had rocks. I think with its speed here, having rocks would be incredible. And because it has that more robotic theme, I think if it had Volt Switch, like its brother here in, Iron Crown, this thing would be a great rocking / Volt Switch pivoting mod with its great, speed. It also really does kind of lack in power. I know 120 isn't bad, but on a Pokemon like this that doesn't have a great defensive typing and isn't the bulkiest thing in the world, I really, really, really would have liked a little bit more power out of it. I would have taken less Spadef for more power. I guess it would have just been better Terrakion then, but even then, Terrakion's only... One of the main reasons why Terrakion is good is because of its offensive typing being ridiculous. Rock Psychic is not as good as Rock Fighting. It just isn't. Rock Fighting has, no resistances, so... I'm a little bit mediocre on this Pokemon. I think it's definitely going to be good. Next up is a Pokemon I can't really decide on, though. We were just talking about a little bit in Iron Crown. I'm also going to put him in B tier for now, but I say high B, low A. I am very optimistic with this Pokemon. It is a Steel Psychic type, obviously, being like the other guys there. And its stats are as follows: 90 HP, 72 attack, 100 defense, 122 special attack, 108 Spadef, and 98 speed. Very solid. Decently fast, incredibly bulky, great typing, and pretty darn strong with 122 as well. Much of a difference from, its counterpart in Cobalion. It also is a great setup threat. It gets agility, it gets iron defense, it gets calm mind, and it can set up in that way. It does get access to dual stab, one being Tachyon Cutter's signature move, as well as, Psychic, Psyshock, things like that. But on top of that, it gets Volt Switch for momentum. It gets Focus Blast to hit bulky steel types, which is very solid. And really, that's about it when it comes to its coverages, but honestly, what else do you need? You can also Steel Beam on choice spec sets and things like that, which is pretty funny. But again, this is a steel type without rocks. It does not have reliable recovery, which I would have loved out of a Pokemon like this with this typing. And unfortunately does not get access to so. So I think that's going to kind of hold it back. I think this thing's going to be very solid with an AV and a solid setup sweeper, but it is going to be a more of a mid-tier Pokemon. And yeah, definitely not the worst thing in the world, but not the best thing in the world either. Now it's time to talk about Terapagos. We're going to move the little guy down here. You can see I even have the broken form. We're not going to talk about its broken form. The dude that has 700 BST and a crazy ability, and yeah, we're not going to talk about that because it's not going to be allowed, right? We're not talking about banned Pokemon in general, because there's no reason. Now, why are you talking about Terapagos Terrestrial form? Because I think that it is allowable for one reason. Now, we're going to talk about why this Pokemon's broken, right? We're going to put it up here in S tier. There we go. Let's talk about its stats, because stats are pretty crazy. 600 BST, 95 HP, 95 attack, 110 defense, 105 special attack, 110 Spadef, and 85 speed. It is a pure normal typing, which is a mediocre typing, but also not riddled by a ton of weaknesses. What does its ability Terra Shell do? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. Terra Shell. This Pokemon shell contains the powers of each type. All damage-dealing moves that hit the Pokemon when its HP is full will be not very effective. This is essentially better multi-scale. So instead of just taking less damage when your HP is full, all attacks are not very effective, so your weaknesses don't matter either. If you're taking a fighting type move, it's not very effective. All the other moves that are, typically neutral against you because you're a normal typing, you don't have resistances, are now not very effective because you take no damage when you're full, which is great on a Pokemon with boots. Obviously, it has an incredible move pool. It is like the Pokemon with the Terra typing of everything, so it has crazy coverage. It has Gen 1 coverage. It almost reminds me of Mew with its coverage. And again, can be very strong. It has a signature move as well, which when it's in this form, what the signature move does is it's just a 120 base power, 100% accurate normal type move. It's basically like its own boom burst, right? And if it's in its broken form and doubles, it hits all targets. But that doesn't really matter for this particular instance. But again, it has every coverage move you could want. It gets great utility moves in moves like Toxic, Rapid Spin, Roar. It can set up, however in the world you want, whether it be with Rock Polish, whether it be with Calm Mind, whether it be, again, a ton of different ways. It has basically all the coverage you need. What makes this Pokemon not broken? In my opinion, what makes it not broken is going to be the fact that it does not have reliable recovery. It does not have Recover, nor Morning Sun, nor Roost, or anything like that. You're relying on Rest for your recovery. And I think a Pokemon that is a little bit less strong immediately, and a little bit more bulk-oriented, really needs that recovery to make it over the top and super broken. Now again, I think this Pokemon's going to be solid. I think Toxic Protect sets in particular are going to be really nasty. Rest sets, setup variants, Rapid Spin, heavy duty boots like utility variants like I Never Die, and can always check something variants are going to be very solid as well. I think this Pokemon is going to be very strong and very good. This is a top end of the board Pokemon, but I do not believe that it is going to be broken. I know that BBR will be allowing it, so we'll see, but I personally don't think it's going to be broken. We'll see. I could be tripping. I could be completely wrong, but I don't think it's going to be broken, so we'll see. And then lastly, we have Pecharunt, if I'm saying that correctly. That's going to be like the Toxic Trio's original, type guy. This thing has the weirdest stat spread of all time. It is a Poison Ghost type. It has 88 HP, 88 attack, 160 defense, 88 special attack, 88 speed def, and 88 speed. Really physically bulky. Poison Ghost is actually a pretty good defensive typing. A lot of times when you're using a Gengar, which is the only other Poison Ghost that immediately comes to mind, you'll use it typically to pivot in on certain resistances because you have so many solid resistances. Now, movable wise, it's weird because all of the moves it gets are good and typically usable in some way, but it has a very shallow move pool. Now, I'll note some moves of relevance. I think Curse is very solid in this Pokemon. It has Mean Look plus Curse, which is very solid. It can really chip down with its own checks. I was talking with Asher in stream about this, and I was talking about how Steel types really give this Mon trouble. A lot of Steels can, especially because its signature move that it wants to spam get blocked by them. This Pokemon, with its physical defense, a lot of Steel types aren't going to be able to break through it. So clicking Curse and then spamming Recover is a very viable option against a lot of slower Steels and trapping them in and beating them. So I think that's a really cool option that this thing can go for. Foul Play is a great option. It gets Gunk Shot, Hex, Malignant Chain, which is his new signature move, which is 100 base power, zero drawback, no missing, and it badly poisons the target. It can badly poison them. If it does badly poison them, our boy's ability here confuses Pokemon that it also poisons. So it's basically a confusion and a poison if you get both of those things to pop, which is pretty crazy. Like we said, it gets Mean Look, it gets Memento to facilitate setup, it gets Nasty Plot, Nightshade, Parting Shot for momentum, Poltergeist, Protect, Recover, Shadow Ball, Sleep Talk, Sludge Bomb, and Wave, Terra Blast, obviously, then Toxic, and even Venoshock, which is a cool option for a Pokemon like this. So this is a Pokemon I'm going to put in B tier. I think that it has great utility and has great upside and can be incredibly obnoxious, but its stat spread and pretty shallow move pool is going to lead it to being taken on pretty darn easy. Oops, I just realized what I did. Let me go ahead and fix that guy right there. Okay, cool. So we should be good. Hopefully that wasn't like that for too long. Oopsie. Alright, so now that we talked about the new Pokemon, we have them where they are. We're going to go ahead and absolutely zoom through all the way up to Duraludon. This tier list had a lot of mons we've already seen in Teal Mask and before in these two, so I'm not going to rank them because you know what they do. And yeah, that being said, let's do it. First up, we have Venusaur. Venusaur is going to be in B tier, always a solid Pokemon. Sunsweeper, I think with Terra in particular, this thing is going to be an absolute monster to deal with. Terra Fire in particular, absolutely terrifies me, so I think that's going to be a great Pokemon. Blastoise is always going to be a B tier Pokemon. It's a great spinner, has access to Shell Smash. It got Wave Crash this gen, which is pretty funny. Water type Double Edge, which could be cool on Shell Smash sets, I guess. You're obviously going to take Recoil and probably die, but definitely a cool Pokemon. Great Rapid Spinner, can flip, turn around. I think losing Toxic is pretty tough for it, as a lot of non-poison Pokemon lost Toxic in this generation, but still a great Rapid Spinner and utility Pokemon. Then we have Vileplume. Vileplume's actually going to go in C tier. I'm a big Vileplume fan personally. I absolutely adore this Pokemon. Strength Stat sets are incredibly obnoxious. Strength Stat plus Effect Spore and Leech Seeding, and just being a big nuisance. You can also Chlorophyll Sweep, but there's much better Pokemon to do that. If you're drafting Vileplume, you're probably drafting it for a more defensive purpose. So I think that's probably what you're going for. Okay. Then we have Tentacool. Tentacool is also going to go in B. We're going to have a lot of B tier Pokemon here, guys. But again, great Rapid Spinner. Something I learned that I got this gen too is Flip Turn, like Blastoise. So now it kind of has that same, option where it can Rapid Spin, then Flip Turn out. It can Scald Bird something, then Flip Turn out. It can Toxic Spikes, and then Flip Turn out. Great utility Pokemon. Very solid Spinef Wall too. I'm a big Tentacool fan. I feel like it's a very, widely debated Pokemon in draft. But I really, really like the thing. I think it's incredible. Okay. Then we have Dodrio. Dodrio is going to go top of D, but I might end up moving it to C tier. I think this thing's really slept on. It got Drill Run and Low Kick this generation, which is really nice for it to hit Steel types. I think with Terra, and its 110 speed, normal flying plus fighting or ground is going to be very strong into a lot of teams, and really not to be slept on. I think this Pokemon's incredibly powerful with Terra if you're doing a low tier Terra league. Now, from one great Pokemon to a bad Pokemon, Dugong's going to go in D tier. There's a million water types. Please do not draft Dugong. I'm sorry, Addison. Please. There's going to be a couple Pokemon that Addison really likes that I'm going to shit on in this video. I know Plusle and Minun are on here too. You know what? We'll rip the Band-Aid off. Sorry, Addison. These guys are terrible. I know you really like them, but I'm sorry, homie. They are not great. Now we have Executor, who's also going to go in D tier for me. Both of these guys are. Now, they're not absolutely terrible when it comes to D tier Pokemon. I have seen both of them used to decent success, especially Alolan Eggy. Grass Dragon isn't the worst typing in the world. It has great coverage, but this thing does not have the same tools that Hydraplin is going to have. Again, maybe a low tier Terra Captain that you can kind of take advantage of and use well, but other than that, I wouldn't recommend it, right? On top of that, we have Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. These Pokemon saw pretty considerable buffs this gen. I'm going to put both of them in C tier, but they both got access to Swords Dance, which I think is incredible for these guys. For Hitmonlee, it's great for Unburdened variants, like Swords Dance plus White Herb CC is much better than Curse plus White Herb CC, right? Or Curse plus White Herb, or Bulk Up plus CC White Herb. Like, it's just a better, more immediately powerful sweeper. And then Hitmonchan with Iron Fist boosted, Mach Punches, Ice Punches, Drain Punches, Fire Punches, Thunder Punches, and a Swords Dance boost. And then Punching Glove as an item makes it very strong. It also can Rapid Spin. So again, a very solid Pokemon. Both of them are really only held back by their base stats. Their move pools and tools otherwise are very solid. Now we have Rhydon here. Rhydon's going to go ahead and go in C tier. No Rhydon jokes in the comments, please. They'll get very upset. But we have Rhydon here. I think Rhydon's another low tier Terra Captain that could low-key go crazy. With an Eviolite, this thing is very bulky, and when you can shed that typing that's latent with a 4x rock and water weakness, and you can change it to whatever you want, I mean, you're going to be in a good spot. You're going to be absolutely chilling. It's going to facilitate for a lot of Swords Dance Rock Polish sweeps. I think it gets Rock Polish still, right? Oh man, I gotta check now. Rhydon. Let's see. Rock Polish. It does get Rock Polish as an Egg Moose still. That's good. Okay, I'm glad that it still gets Rock Polish. I'm glad about that. So, there you go. Double Dance Sweeper. Alright, back in D tier we go. We're gonna go ahead and put Electabuzz and Magmar. Now, I will say, out of these two, Magmar sucks. But Electabuzz is like a low tier electric with static and cool options. It got Knockoff, it can Volt Switch, it gets like Ice Punch, it can set up screens. It's like, if you're trying to draft a low tier electric to do those things and Electrode gets sniped, you can totally draft Electabuzz. It is not a bad Pokemon in the slightest, so I'm here for it. Next up, we have Lapras. Lapras is also going to go in D tier, but again, not the worst Pokemon in the world. Water Absorb Niche is always a nice thing. It's a bulky water with solid Gem 1 coverage. That Ice typing is bad, but if you can tear it, I mean, hey, not too bad, right? Really not too bad. Then we got Gator. I'm going to have... Is this a crazy take? Dude, I think Gator with Terra is a ridiculous Pokemon. It got access to Flip Turn, which is pretty cool for it. But I don't think it's going to use it that often, right? I think this thing with Dragon Dance and Swords Dance and Terra Water is going to be insane. Terra Electric to bully through Water Resist is also going to be absolutely insane. Terra Ice even for sheer force stab ice punches on top of your Water Stab and basically having Water Ice Stab. Insane. I think this Pokemon is going to be so good with Terra in Draft League. If you can find the opportunity to Terra your Gator, it's a Pokemon I really, really want to use with Terra, guys. Like, I really, really want to use Feraligatr with Terra. Who knows? Maybe that's just me, but I'm absolutely juiced. I really want to use it. Unfortunately, Meganium, it's a fellow Johto starter, fellow Johtoian, is super ass and is going to go in D tier. I saw that it got access to Knockoff, though, which I do think is a solid buff for it. It's one of the better D tier Pokemon here. Like, I'd probably rather take Meganium than regular Executor. So, you know, that's something. Now, Lantern is next up, and Lantern, I believe, got access to Flip Turn. Let me check. Yeah, Lantern got access to Flip Turn, which means now it has a means of momentum that allows it to get out without being blocked by ground types, which is great. Obviously, before, I could pretty freely Volt Switch because ground types kind of struggle coming in on it, but now there's no more 50-50. You don't have to think about it anymore. You gain momentum. Obviously, it's a very annoying, bulky Pokemon. With an Assault Vest, it's great. Leftovers Protect Lanterns are my favorites, or just Rest Talk with Scald, Volt Switch, Rest Sleep Talk. Incredible low-tier pivot. Now, Lantern is not going to be valued as high point-wise as these Pokemon, but for the point value that you are getting Lantern at, I think it is one of the most valuable Pokemon on this list, and I think I would be remiss to not put it in B tier. C tier, I'm going to put Blossom. This Pokemon's a little bit better, in my opinion, than these guys down here. Just because of that access to Quiver Dance plus Terra, I think can be really, really powerful. As well as Strength Sap and Sleep Powder. It can be really obnoxious. And, you know, the Sun option, too. It's just another, you know, potential Sun enjoyer. I wouldn't say abuser. I'd say enjoyer. Ramble is going to be the next C tier Pokemon. Almost borderline B tier for me. This is one of the best low tier fairies in draft, in my opinion, and offers great value for the points it's at. It's very strong, has incredible coverage moves, and is a very, very good Intim pivot / fairy at its price point, especially in a metagame where there's not a lot of fairies. So I think it's very solid. Next up is Skarmory, and I remember when we were tiering on streams, John thought this thing lost Roost, and if this thing lost Roost, it'd be in C tier. I think it keeping Roost obviously does keep it in the B tier. I'm personally not the biggest Skarm fan in draft. I think it's a bit passive and a bit slow for the metagame that we're in now. And my buddy Keegan, actually, I will go ahead and try and remember to link it. If I forget, yell at me in the comments. Keegan made a video on why Skarm has been really bad the last 2 gens draft-wise, comparative to, like, its Gen 6 success, and how it kind of started falling off in Gen 7, and then Gen 8, it's, like, fucking non-existent. So I'm not the biggest fan. I actually agree with most of the things he said in that video. I do think that it does have a place in the metagame, though. Very, very physically bulky, reliable recovery and roost. It can roll in things around, and it sets up rocks and spikes, which is always valuable. I think it lost its own ability to defog and be anti-hazards on its own, though, which does suck in my opinion. Like, that is definitely really unfortunate. But I am going to go ahead and put Skarm here in B tier. Next up, we have Kingdra. Kingdra, I feel like I want to put this thing in A tier too. If I have Gator in A tier, there's no way I don't put Kingdra up there, right? This is the best Rain Sweeper in the game. So Rain has just gotten immensely better again, right? Because we have the best Rain Sweeper back and kept all the things it needed to. And this thing plus Terra is going to be incredibly, incredibly powerful. Terra Water, Terra Dragon, Terra Electric, Terra Flying Hurricanes popping off. Like, this thing is going to be so unbelievably strong and almost unguardable with Terra, in my opinion. I think you might see some leagues Terra banning even higher tier Terra. It just seems like so oppressive all the time. Next up, we have Hitmontop, and I do want to check something for Hitmontop because I know it didn't get Swords Dance, and I felt bad about that, right? But it's really unfortunate if you're a Hitmontop enjoyer like my boy Ant. But I wanted to see if it got Knockoff. Did it get access to Knockoff? Please, any knockoffers? No, there's Mach Punch Shot stuff. It doesn't look like it got access to Knockoff. Dude, my boy, they do him so dirty. He's a cool guy, but I'm really not a Hitmontop fan, man. I know a lot of people really love the Intim plus Rapid Spin. My thing with Hitmontop, it is the freest Rapid Spin block of all time when that thing comes in. It is really not hard to spin block on Hitmontop. It's not the bulkiest thing in the world, and it's not the strongest thing in the world. It's pretty easy to switch into. It's solid Spadef-wise. Everybody loves their AV Hitmontops, but I'm really not the biggest fan. I think it's a C tier Pokemon in like the truest definition. I think it's very, very, very mediocre in my opinion. So we're gonna go ahead and put it here in a C tier right now. Definitely not a better C tier Pokemon, but a C tier Pokemon. Next up, we have Raikou, and I'm going to put Raikou in B tier. Raikou did keep Scald, right? And a lot of people really love Raikou for that reason, and a lot of people really love Raikou in general. I think it's a solid Pokemon. I think with Terra has potential, but I've never been a big Raikou guy. I really haven't. It really struggles with a lot of the same things. That pure electric typing is very mediocre. I think Raging Bolt is better solely because it drops Dracos, right? It drops Dracos or Dragon Pulses, and the things that switch into electric moves don't really switch into those moves. The things that switch into electric moves sometimes care about Scald. Sometimes they don't because they're a grass type, and that makes Raikou have a really awkward position, especially because it's not the most immediately powerful Pokemon in the world. So it's a lot easier to pivot around Raikou than you'd think, and the best Raikou set in my opinion in past gens was Subtoxic Protect. It just was, in my opinion, and now that's not a viable possibility anymore. You cannot Subtoxic Protect with your Raikou. You can Calm Mind with it. You cannot Subtoxic Protect, and that makes it much worse for me. So I'm going to put it in B tier. I personally would put it in C tier. I think objectively, though, it is a B tier Pokemon. Next up is Entei. This is a Pokemon that like belongs in B tier, but I enjoyed, right, for its price point. I think it's very solid. I love cooking Sacred Fire and Extreme Speed. This Pokemon with Terra is going to be very strong. It's no longer nature locked like it was back in the Gen 7 days. And again, with Terra, it could end up being very, very powerful. It's definitely a very solid legendary Pokemon. A tier, another water type. Dude, this is the return of the waters. They've been terrible up to this point, but waters are making a comeback, and we have another A tier water in Suicune. Again, absolutely incredible Pokemon. It did keep Scald. Now it lost Toxic, so Subtoxic Suicune sets are no more, but Sub-Scald, Calm Mind, Protect is going to be insane. This thing with Terra is going to be obnoxious. You can like Terra Poison this thing and just never get poisoned, which is incredibly obnoxious. You can just like flip your typings and not be weak to the same things, and especially in draft when I know what my opponent's team is. I mean, this thing can be absolutely obnoxious. There's not much that deals with it. To be completely honest, I'm going to be yawning a little bit, guys. It's 12:35 when I'm recording this. I've been playing the game all day, and I need to record this so I can upload it and go to bed. But yeah. Next up, we have Blaziken here. Now, I'm tiering this as if it is Blaziken with Blaze, not Speed Boost. Your league should not allow Blaziken with Speed Boost. It is broken. It should not be allowed. I'm sorry, guys. It really should not be. But Blaziken with Blaze is still a great Pokemon. It is a great physical attacker. It is a great special attacker. It is a great mixed attacker. It grabs momentum with U-turn. It knocks off items. And basically, it's just very strong and very solid. I think this is, again, a very solid B tier Pokemon. Very good in my opinion. And that's as good as it needs to get. It doesn't need to get any more broken than that, in my opinion. I'm gonna do Sceptile really quick. I do want to mention, I don't know why Sceptile's over here is my main thing. Sceptile got Shed-Tail. Now, the leagues that I currently play in typically ban the move Sceptile. They see it as a pretty uncompetitive move. And if it's banned on Earthworm, who doesn't have regen like Cyclizar, I have a feeling it's going to be banned in most places on Sceptile, because getting a free substitute and, passing it to a teammate on a Pokemon this fast is pretty broken in a lot of instances, because not only are you getting a free switch, you're potentially, staying behind a sub and forcing your opponent to attack and break a sub, and you're basically getting 2 free turns out of 1, which doesn't seem very fair. I think it's really cool that it got in. I'm a big Sceptile fan, but yeah, I definitely think it's broken, personally. But with that being said, Sceptile still is a very interesting Pokemon. I'm going to put it in C tier for now, but I think as a low tier Terra option with Unburden and Swords Dance variants and Seed variants and things like that, this Pokemon could be very strong and very difficult to deal with. So I'm going to put it in C tier. Now, again, okay, this might be a hot take. I'm putting this thing in S. Swampert, for the value that it offers for your team, is S tier. It's not as highly priced as something that like Terapagos or Gouging Flame or whatever. But for the value that it offers at like 13 points it's going to give you is insane. This thing sets up rocks. It didn't get spikes, which is unfortunate. It flip turns and serves as an incredible pivot. Water plus ground is an incredible typing. And on top of that, it got knockoff. They basically took everything minus the water immunity from Seismitoad and gave it to Swampert and said, hey, you're just as good. Don't worry, you're better now. They didn't want people thinking that Swampert was the copy of Seismitoad, and they wanted everybody to know it was the opposite way around. This thing offers so much value as a defensive pivot to your team. It is insane. Bulk up variants are also incredibly powerful. Losing Toxic is tough. You can also roar, though, and do a ton of cool things. Incredible Pokemon. Incredible Pokemon. I love Swampert. It's also my favorite starter ever, and top 5 favorite Pokemon. Not top 3. So maybe I'm a little biased, but definitely great. Next up is Flygon. I have to put Flygon in C tier, which makes me sad. I really wanted to put it in B tier, right? Because I thought something that was going to be really awesome with Flygon was going to be its capabilities of terrestrialization plus setup, plus its bulk and being a solid defensive piece and you turning around. I think it got access to Stealth Rock, which is awesome. But what it lost was really detrimental in Roost, and I think that kind of keeps it about the same value-wise as before, because now it's much better offensively, and it can rock, but it's much worse defensively not being able to Roost anymore, so I think putting it in C tier is fair. Great low-tier Terra Captain. Please Terra your Flygon. I think it's going to be awesome. Next up is Metagross. We're going to put this guy in A. Metagross got some cool buffs. No Shift Gear, unfortunately, but it did get access to Psychic Fangs, which is an incredibly strong Psychic Stab move that now it doesn't have to run either Psycho Cut, which is weak, or Zen Headbutt, which is not that much stronger and not 100% accurate. Now it gets strong Psychic Fangs that can break terrain, and then it got Knockoff. Metagross getting Knockoff is incredible for it. Being able to knock off Switchin's items and cripple them that way is so good for a tanky defensive piece like Metagross. Great rocker, great Pokemon overall, weakness policy sweeper, bullet punch priority mon, great mon overall. I love me some Metagross, and this is my second favorite Pokemon of all time, so again, biased, but that's my guy, dude. I'm totally drafting him in this upcoming leagues. I gotta get me a Metagross, man. I gotta get me a Metagross. Clear Body's also really good. And a cool VGC mon. Alright, we're gonna kind of group the Regis together, because I'm getting tired. I need to start zooming through these. Thankfully, the later gens don't have as many mons outside of after Gen 5. But the Regis, what are we thinking with the Regis? Now, they did lose some things. They lost Seismic Toss on Registeel, and I think on them in general. And Registeel was a big user of Seismic Toss because it's so passive defensively. Big downgrade. Also, less Toxic, which is a big downgrade on Pokemon like this that are much more defensive. However, they still all do have great qualities. Regirock and Steel are great rockers. They can all Iron Defense and Body Press. Regis is pretty bad, and that's why it is going to be in D tier. But the other two are going to sit comfortably in C tier, and Registeel is probably a top 3 Pokemon in C tier, realistically. Like, still a very solid Pokemon. Now the Lotties, we're going to put them in A and S. Now the Lotties have very similar move pools. I prefer Latios. Latios is bulkier than Latios, and Latios is stronger. But the thing is, Latios isn't the strongest in the world, it's very bulky. Latios is still very bulky and is very strong. With Terra, both of these Pokemon are going to be absolutely incredible though. And Latios got Flip Turn, which I think is funny. So he gets to go in S tier because I think that is absolutely hilarious that he got access to that. Like, genuinely very funny. But Latios is also one of my favorite Pokemon to use in draft, man. This thing is so incredibly strong. It can be very bulky. I also really enjoy Latios as well. So that's obviously very cool. I think they did both lose Defog though, which is a pretty big utility loss, especially for Latios. Let me check. I'm curious. They did keep Healing Wish, which is cool. They both have Recover, so they keep Recovery. I think it definitely did learn. Yeah. They did get Fairy coverage, though. Hold on. Alluring Voice is Fairy coverage. Hold up. Wait. They got Fairy coverage. Yo, the Terra Fairy Lotties. At least Latios got it. Latios didn't. Latios getting Fairy coverage. Wait, hold on. Did Latios get it? It might have gotten it. It did not. Yo, Latios got Fairy coverage. That's low-key super shiesty. That's low-key crazy, dude. Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. Good for Latias. That's a great buff for it. Okay, next up we have DOS and DOD. Again, these are a lot of Pokemon who are kind of intrinsically kind of intertwined. DOS goes up in S tier. It's very weak initially, but with a Life Orb and with the bulk you're allowed to give this Mon and set up opportunities and things like that, this Pokemon is very, very obnoxious with that 180 base speed. That speed tier is unmatched outside of Regieleki, and it's an incredible Pokemon. Terra also makes it great. And DOD, I'm going to put an A tier. Now, DOD did take a hit this generation in the nerf of Recover PP, only having 8. But it kept Teleport, which is absolutely incredible for it. Such a solid Pokemon. I'm a big Deoxys fan, Deoxys Defense fan. A lot of people don't like it because of its passivity. And again, it did also lose Toxic, I believe. Let me check. It kept Teleport. It's one of the few mons with Teleport in the game, which is a very solid niche. Deoxys Defense is one of the best pivots in the game. It is so unbelievably bulky, and it just teleports out. Like, again, ridiculously solid in that regard. Did it lose Toxic? I think so. But they can Nasty Plot and Calm Mind both of them, and be very solid. They can Rock, Stealth Rock, and I believe even T-Spike, right? Can they T-Spike too this gen? I don't remember. Let's see if it, like, pops up. Now there's 75 Pokemon that get Toxic Spikes. Oh my goodness. It definitely cannot. Okay. Oh well. Not too big of a deal. Next up is Rampardos and Bastiodon. These guys are too bad. Rampardos is really strong, but all of its stats everywhere suck. And Bastiodon is very bulky, but all of its stats everywhere else suck. So there you go. Rhyperior is the Terramon I want to try the most right now. Solid Rock plus Terra plus Rock Polish and Swords Dance. Oh my god, this Pokemon is going to be insane. I love Rhyperior as a defensive ground or like tanky ground on its own. But with Terra, I think this Pokemon is going to be absolutely mind-shattering. It is going to be so unbelievably obnoxious. Think of like the defensive Torterras you've been seeing like Pokemon Run and SPL. Rhyperior does that better. It's also much more immediately threatening. Now it can't Shell Smash, but it can Swords Dance and Rock Polish, which is also very valuable in its own right. And I think it's better. I think it is a better Pokemon with Terra personally. Like I am so juiced to try this thing. Electivire is still really bad D tier. It got knockoff and bulk up, which is great for it, but still not great. Magmor's going to go in C tier. Strong, solid, fire breaker. It's just a better offensive Pokemon than Electivire, and that's why it gets to go like bottom C tier kind of area. But yeah, cool mon. Porygon-Z, we're going to go ahead and put that in B tier. Again, a very strong Pokemon. The tri-attacks that this thing is throwing off is ridiculously strong. You also Nasty Plot. This thing's going to be very strong with Terra. Terra, like normal and fighting, is going to be ridiculously strong and terrifying to deal with. Or normal and fire, or whatever it might be. But regardless, I do think it still struggles, and adaptability doesn't stack the way we'd like it to with Terra, so it's not as mind-boggling as we previously thought. Regigigas is an interesting one. I think if you're doing like a really low tier Terra, this is a very viable option, and especially with it getting like Protect and Rest Talk last gen, I think this is a C tier Pokemon, because think if you're getting this thing at like 3, 4, 5 points, and you can outlast that time and get really bulky and strong and obnoxious, there's not a lot of teams that can take you out, especially with Terra on your side. So I think this guy definitely deserves to go in C tier, and much above a lot of these, like, you know, tier 5, like bottom tier shitters. Then we have Serp. I dare say Serp is S tier with Terra. To be honest, I could be overhyping it like crazy. I'm using Serp in a Gen 7 League right now too, so recency bias is crazy. But I have like 8 kills with Hidden Power Serp. I can't imagine when this thing gets to Terra Fire and Terra Ground and Terra Ice and all this crazy shit. Like, this mon's going to be so unbelievably powerful. It's absolutely insane. Sublair, Subleech, fucking Scarf, just 4 attacks superior. It's such a strong Pokemon. It's gonna be very, very difficult to deal with. And yeah, I mean, the speed tier is great. It's such a good Pokemon, man. Serp is so good. It's so unbelievably good. Okay, Emboar. Let's see, did Emboar get anything crazy? I feel like I might have heard of him getting some cool stuff. I think Terra Emboar, regardless of which, is going to be very, very strong. That's something that I think is really, really cool. They keep Scald. I kind of hope it did, even though, yeah, it did. That's so cool. So it did keep Scald, which is definitely cool. It got Close Combat, which is awesome. Good for him. And Knockoff. Yeah, these are big buffs for him. I wish I got Headlong Rush. That would have been awesome. And unfortunately, does not get Headlong Rush, I believe. Let's see. It does keep priority in Sucker Punch. I think with like a Terra Fire, Terra Rock Head Smash, Terra Ground sets, Terra Water sets. I think there's so many different options with Emboar that I think are very, very solid. Very strong Pokemon too. This is going to go in B tier, but it's a very good low tier Mon and a good low tier Terra option. Zebby Strika is going to go in D tier. This thing sucks. Did it get anything good? Strika. Okay. Trailblaze is cool. With Terra, this thing will always get better, right? That's just how Terra works. Electro no egg moves. Yeah, this thing is doomed to be terrible forever. So it's down to D tier. Another S tier though, we got Excadrill. I mean, again, speaking of Terra, whoa, Gen 9. This thing with Terra Flying, Terra Fire, Terra Water, it's going to be incredibly powerful. This thing in the sand as well with a buff Tyranitar that has knockoff is also going to be insane. I wish Gigalith was here because I really like Gigalith sand teams with Excadrill in draft because of the price that you can get that. I have a championship with Gigalith, Lottie, Sand, and again, one of my favorite teams ever, but not the absolute end of the world when it comes to a Pokemon like this. Whimsicott is going to go probably in B tier. No, it's going to go in C tier with the loss of moves that it has. Like, did it lose Defog? I think losing Defog is... Whimsicott. Let's see, did it lose Defog? It did. Yeah, I'm going to put it in C tier. Still a solid fairy. Good momentum grabber. Prankster shenanigans, Encore, you know, Memento, stuff like that. Obviously strong, but definitely not the biggest fan in the world. Scrafty, hot take B tier. Again, lower point value Mon. Oops. Lower point value Mon than you're typically going to, you know, see at this high point thing. But for what it offers at its point value is absolutely insane. Intimidate, Shed Skin, Moxie, all great abilities, can bulk up and Dragon Dance. Breast Talk is great, Eevee is great, knock off everything. It's just such a good Pokemon. Great Ghost Resist. Such an obnoxious Pokemon and so very good. Okay, man, we're getting close. We only got like one more row, so we're getting there, Owen. We're getting there. I'm a little tired, if you can't tell. I've been recording this for 46 minutes, and I started at midnight, so woo! Alright, Golurk. Golurk's gonna go in C tier. Again, a solid low tier ground. Very strong. Ghost Ground is an incredible stab combination. It could set up with Rock Flush before. I don't know if it can anymore, because a lot of grounds lost it. A lot of grounds lost it, so I don't think it can. Yeah, I don't think it got Rock Flush back. It looks like it hasn't, but again, very strong. I think potentially like Iron Fist and No Guard are both very viable options. Dynamic Punch is really fun on No Guard too. It's really obnoxious when you're thinking of ground fighting and Ghost as a combination, but very strong Pokemon, decently bulky if you need it to be as well. Only issue is it's very slow, but you know, that's patchable. It's something you can deal with, right? Not the end of the world. So alright, let's go ahead. We're going to rank the three trio of justice, not including Keldeo, count that separate. We're going to go ahead and go in B for Cobalion. Bulky, Rocker, Pivot, Taunter, Thunder Wave here, but can also set up and win despite its mediocre offenses. Terrakion is an A tier. While I'm not a big fan of Terrakion, it's an unguardable dual stab. Can set up speed and special and attack. It can also be just a crazy Scarfer or Band Breaker, and yeah, great Pokemon. And then Virizion is pretty ass. I'm putting C's here, but I really hate Virizion. Great Spadef stat, that's about it. Calm Mind, Sword Stance, I guess. Grass Fighting is a pretty ass typing though, so just what you get for being a grass type. Then we have Keldeo, probably the best of the three. I'm going to put it in A tier. This Pokemon is always going to be good. Calm Minding and Scalding and Focus Blast / Secret Sorting through a ton of things. I think with Terra, this thing is going to be phenomenal. I think Terra Flying is a really cool option for it to really bully down those grasses, or Terra Ice, but I just don't like the Ice defensive typing, to be completely honest, so who knows. Then we have Kyurem. Kyurem's going to go in S tier. This thing better be Terra banned in whatever league you are playing in. Regardless of the Terra rules, this thing should not be allowed to Terra. Now, Kyurem did lose access to Roost, which is pretty bad, but it's still so unbelievably strong. And I think that Terra is going to be a little bit too much, in my opinion. Now, losing Roost is really bad for the sub-Roost bulky sets. Like, it really is, and I think people are kind of underestimating that. So maybe your league doesn't need a Terra ban. I don't know. Maybe I'm the one who's crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But regardless, Freeze-Dry plus Earth Power always hits things hard. Draco is really strong. Before, you'd see a lot of sub-Roost Freeze-Dry or Earth Power sets. Now you're going to see a lot of specs and a lot of really strong breaking power. And again, this thing's just absolutely incredible. So, great Pokemon. Meowstic, probably one of the worst Prankstermons, but Prankster's so viable. Malamar, pretty bad. I'm putting in D tier, probably high D tier, but like Contrary Superpower is pretty gimmicky and it's pretty hard to get going with Pokemon as slow and not bulky as Malamar, so that's something to keep in mind. Incineroar, this isn't doubles, so we're not going to put him in S tier. This is singles, so we're probably going to put him in B tier with Boots and U-Turn and Knockoff. It is a big nuisance. I am so sorry for the VGC players out there, though, knowing this guy got helping hand. I really do apologize. I wish the best for you. Primarina is also going to go in A tier. Strong Pokemon. Water Fairy is like probably the best defensive typing in the game, in my opinion. So if like Azumarill good, this thing's going to be good right now, right? It baits burns, it flip turns around, it has great coverage, and it clicks Moonblast. That's about it. Araquanid, I low-key want to put in A. Right now we're going to put in B. I think your league, if they're doing low tier Terra, is going to ban Araquanid from tearing. This thing with Water Move, plus Terra Water, plus Rain, plus Water Bubble, plus losing its bug typing. Dude, what do you do about that? What do you even do about that? Nothing. The answer is nothing. You do nothing about that and something dies. Minior is a Pokemon I don't really understand. It's kind of mid, but it is usable. Shell Smash, I guess. Kind of finicky. Necrozma is a Pokemon in your league should objectively be Terra banning. Please do not allow your Necrozma to Terra. It is not allowed. I will call the cops. Do not Terra Necrozma. Incredibly versatile Pokemon, though, whether it be as a bulky rocker, defensive pivot, offensive win con physically or specially, or just crazy breaker. Necrozma will do it for you, and I'm so excited for it to come back. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. Oop, no. I am so glad our last two Pokemon were Alcremie. Dude, this is the funniest way to end the video. Our last two Pokemon were Alcremie and Duraludon, which we're both going to go D tier Alcremie and C tier Duraludon because it can Eviolite. Thank goodness, because I am not remaking that tier list. As you can see, I actually had to manually put all of those in, and it wasn't the actual tier list because I don't have the images of these guys yet. The most anticlimactic way of ending, but please let me know what you thought of the tier list. You can scroll back a little bit and see where we're at. I'm super excited for draft. Let me know if there's any type of videos you guys want to see specifically coming out. I plan on having some Wi-Fi battles out. And obviously plenty of draft videos. There's going to be a ton of draft videos, ton of discussion. And draft leagues will be starting within a couple weeks here. So I'm very excited. Happy holidays to you all. That was a very funny way to end it. I hit the little backspace button on my mouse on accident, but I'll see you guys in the next one later.